But our top story, it's the morning after Diwali and streets across the country were seen lined with heaps of garbage, burnt crackers, discarded packings, polythene bags and cracker peels. 22 days after he launched his Swachh Bharat campaign, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is finding that not all citizens are imbibing the message.
Day after Diwali, our streets look no less than a war zone. Coming just days after Modi took matters into his own hands quite literally and launched the ambitious Clean India campaign. In Delhi, visibility was hampered in several areas owing to firecrackers, and the morning after bore signs of the festivities the night before.
Post Diwali, this is the picture of every road of Delhi. Everywhere you can see the crackers waste lying on the roads. Nowhere we can see the cleanliness. The need of the hour is not for the leaders to call for an Abhiyan for the cleanliness drive, but for the society and the localites also, who should make it clear that it is their responsibility also to clean their locality.
The city of Mumbai, we could see burnt crackers, discarded packaging, polythene bags, strewn by revelers at public places. Kolkata was no different.
Through his Clean India campaign, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is trying to ensure that India becomes clean by 2019, but its impact can hardly be seen, especially in Bihar's capital, Patna. It's the day after Diwali, and all across the city we can see that there's huge loads and loads of dirt, garbage and filth spread all across the road, especially the remains of the crackers.
Even the municipal workers in Nagpur city were more aware of the Prime Minister's Swachh Bharat Abhiyan as compared to its more upwardly mobile citizens.
यही कि अगर कचरा करते हैं तो सफाई करने के लिए खुद भी आए. जैसे नरेंद्र मोदी खुद सफाई करने के लिए उतरे हैं रोडों में, तो उन्होंने भी खुद ने आना चाहिए लोगों ने.
Despite being a tourist destination, Shimla, it seemed, takes no pride in keeping the hill station clean. This old lady makes a living by sweeping the streets, but had an exceptionally tough morning today.
देखो जी, ਜਦੋਂ पटाखे फटूके चलाते हैं ना, कूड़ा फेंक बहुत हो जाता है, फिर हमारे को ना संभलने पड़ता, खिलर जाता गड्डियों के नाल, बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाती है.
Bhopal was no different. This gentleman nailed it when it came to pinning responsibility.
कचरा पूरे शहर में, पूरे देश में इकट्ठा होता है किसी त्योहार के कारण, तो उसमें सबकी सहभागीदारी तो जरूरी है.
The need for a Clean India campaign is non-negotiable. The question is, how many of us sitting at home today burst crackers last night and forgot to pick up after ourselves? Bureau Report, Headlines Today.
So those are some of the images that our correspondents have been capturing through the day. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been on Twitter again a short while ago. He's appreciated the efforts being made to clean up the city's post-Diwali. He tweeted, and I quote now, "Several friends told me that a lot of people clean the areas where they burst crackers during Diwali." So Modi claiming, "I congratulate them for their efforts." That's what the Prime Minister is saying, unquote. The Prime Minister also congratulating news channels for raising the issue and spreading awareness among people. He said, "I saw several TV channels showing dirt left behind after crackers. I congratulate them for spreading awareness of importance of cleanliness." The big question that we are raising on the news today at 9. Has India failed Swachh Bharat campaign? Have citizens failed the Swachh Bharat campaign? Let's get straight into our talking point, because I'm joined by three special citizens. Joining me now, Dr. Kiran Bedi, former IPS officer, joins me. Mohandas Pai, who's heading a civic group in Bangalore, former Infosys man, and also with me Sunita Narayan, one of the country's leading environmentalists. Appreciate all of you joining us. Let me start with you in a sense, Kiran Bedi, because you have been among those very vigorously advocating the Swachh Bharat campaign. But on the streets in Delhi today, we don't find the streets very swachh. They aren't clean. Is it simply a mindset issue that the people still haven't understood what it means to keep India clean, to keep their neighborhood clean after all the festivities of Diwali last night?
Yes, because Swachh Bharat
also means Swachh mind, and the mindset which has never been trained for Swachhta. It's been all selfish. It's been a selfish Indian mind. All these years, it's been a selfish Indian mind which only belongs to itself. So here is this Prime Minister who's kick-started a movement of sense of belonging, sense of concern for others, sense of responsibility. So how do you expect this to come within the last 1 week? What he's done is he's kick-started a movement. He's set the awareness rolling, but don't declare the result today. I think let's not declare the result today. All we can say is he set the ball rolling. Chief ministers have to take over. District magistrates have to take over. Local politicians have to take over. The panchayats have to take over. They have to take over now.
What about... what about citizens groups? I'll come to you, Dr. Bedi, because you're saying panchayats have to take over, local politicians have to take over, chief ministers have to take over. But Mohandas Pai, you are part of a group in Bangalore which again is looking at civic issues. Citizens themselves, are they conscious, or is it something that you watch on TV, you identify with when the Prime Minister says we need a Swachh Bharat, we need to focus on sanitation, but are we ready to walk the talk as citizens? Are we ready, after bursting crackers all night, to actually go outside and then clean up our streets?
Well, Radhip, the sad reality is that we are not ready. What happened was a photo op, and many celebrities came and swept a few things. They didn't even know how to hold the broom, and some probably put dirt there to do it. They got their photos, they tweeted, and they said, hey, we Swachh Bharat, it's all over. It's not going to work like this, Radhip. It's a long, hard grind. We have to have many citizens doing it. We need to enforce the law against littering. We must improve municipal services. Citizens should be fined. The law should be invoked. So I think it's going to take 4 or 5 years, Radhip. We're not going to have it immediately. So at the moment, it's a photo op? We started the movement.
At the moment, are you saying it's a photo op?
It has to percolate down. It's a photo op. Everybody does a photo op. Absolutely, it's only a photo op. That's the reality. Everywhere you see photos coming. Mary Com does something and she sends a photo, everybody, I did it. I mean, what does it mean? It means nothing.
But at least isn't it important? Are you being that cynical?
Omar Abdullah, is it?
Are you being cynical to say that a photo op doesn't matter? You need celebrities to get involved.
I'm not being cynical. I'm not being cynical. I'm saying the long, tough grind. Most people are taking the photo op. It has to be reiterated. It has to sink in. Like Kiran Bedi said, we need many of the corporators, local leaders, citizen action group to come forward. It will take time. Right now, it's just a mere photo op. It's not sunk in to all people that what it means and why it is necessary.
Sunita Narayan, pollution figures. The final figures haven't come, but as always, of course, the quality of air has gone alarmingly bad the day after Diwali. On Thursday evening, Delhi recorded 210 micrograms per cubic meter of nitrogen dioxide, which, while the prescribed standard, I'm told, is 80 micrograms. So, Swachh Bharat is not just about cleaning the streets, it's about clean air as well. Again, there doesn't seem to be the consciousness that is needed. Nobody's saying you don't have a... I would be the last person to say don't celebrate Diwali. Let's have crackers, of course, at Diwali. But do you believe that we still haven't understood what this does to the environment, what it does to the people around us?
No, absolutely, Rajdeep. In fact, the final figures are in, and even though the Delhi government claims that this Diwali, the air is just as bad as it was last Diwali, it's surely not a celebration, because what they are admitting through their figures is that the air was really bad. It was very toxic. PM 2.5, which is a very bad toxin, was 8 times above the normal, the standard, and so was nitrogen oxide. It was deadly, the air. And what I think is very important, and 2 things that I would like to say here. One, I am glad that we are discussing Clean India. The fact is that I'm glad that the Prime Minister has put it on the table, so at least we are discussing it today. But what is absolutely clear is that we do not know how we are going to get this Clean India. If I take air pollution, what is ironical is the fact that China, from where we import a lot of our firecrackers, actually has a system to make sure that if there is a high pollution day, it bans the use of firecrackers. Now, I have been also saying I love Diwali. We should not have firecrackers, but then we should clean up the air for 3 days before by stopping cars. we should make sure that we have space for firecrackers. We don't take any hard steps and we think we will get a clean India. That will not happen.
Can I just hold you? I've heard of 2 hard steps already. One from Mr. Pai, who says fine people who litter the streets. You're saying stop all vehicular traffic before Diwali. Kiran Bedi, do you believe you need punitive actions? Kiran Bedi, do you believe you need punitive actions or deterrents?
Absolutely.
It's not enough to just have advertising and glossy campaigns with celebrities. You need punitive action.
Oh, it's multi-dimensional action. You need civic action, you need a participation, you also need an enforcement. You need enforcement with it. And you also need licensing controls. On one hand, we keep giving licenses for more and more cracker shops. On the other hand, you don't expect them to be polluting. No, you have to have a comprehensive plan now. And that whenever Prime Minister makes a statement, it has to be backed by a implementation comprehensive plan where everybody's responsibility, all directions are also talked about and responsibility fixed. So I think while the Prime Minister has made a very important announcement, as Sunita said, he's put it on the table. We now need to get to the how do we go about implementing it? And
because all I see on my screens, is back to the Safai Karmacharis who have to do the hard work the next morning. So the point is, would you find someone, Kiran Bedi, would you find someone who's littered the street and said 24 hours later, day after Diwali, has not cleaned the litter outside his or her home? Would you find that person?
Why not? Why not? Bring the municipality in it. That's where the enforcement plan comes in. And it should be made public that enforcement begins and the fines are harsh. I think the current fines are something which you would probably just put it as change. I think you need a comprehension plan.
Yeah, go ahead, Mohandas Pai.
Radip, let's learn from what Leon Q did in Singapore in the 1960s and 70s. They were as bad a society as we were. It was as dirty or more dirty than we were. He passed a law, he enforced the law. It took about 10-12 years. It actually worked. The spanking clean, it takes time to change. But you must enforce the law. The British had, anti-littering laws in the municipalities.
Can you compare Singapore to India?
We've not been enforcing
Can you compare Singapore to India?
No, Radip, Singapore started in the 1960s and 70s, Radip, and now it took them 10 years. We are just started now. So it will take us 10 years if we enforce it, and if we penalize people, if we punish people and make it very public, then it will work. Please understand, Indians are very individualistic. We are not used to discipline, we are used to littering, and there is no consequence of littering. You see litter all on the government offices, private sector offices, on the roads. The municipality doesn't clear the garbage. The garbage mafia has captured many cities and nobody cares. The chief ministers don't care, corporations don't care, corporates don't care. Nobody cares, Radip. In Bangalore, we've been fighting this battle for the last so many 2 or 3 years. But there's garbage all over the streets. Nobody cares, Radip. So there has to be a law. It has to be enforced. The British did it. We are not doing it after independence. That's a tragedy.
No, but is it about getting the middle class to really get involved in these campaigns, Sunita Narayan? Whether it's an environment campaign, whether it's a cleanliness campaign, do you believe the Indian middle class will come on television shows, will probably identify with, will express outrage on social media, but when it comes to walking the talk, the Indian middle class has in a sense distanced itself from that civic consciousness that is needed. Is it a top-down approach or a bottom-up approach that you need?
Absolutely.
You know, Rajiv, the fact is, this is the most ironic, what you're asking is rather strange, because garbage is the Indian middle class's problem. Pollution is the Indian middle class's problem. The fact is, we are the cause of the problem, and it is a problem for us as well. And that we cannot disown this. We are the ones who actually create all the garbage. We use all the plastic. We are the ones who burn so many firecrackers because we have the money to do so. And the fact is, the richer you are, the more garbage you have. And the problem is, and this is where the real problem in our society is, that this strange socialism that we have, that we are always subsidizing the rich in the name of the poor. So we will not increase charges for the removal of garbage because we say, oh, it will affect the poor. It's exactly what we do with parking. We will not charge for parking because we say, oh, it will affect the poor. But the fact is that only 13% of India actually even owns a car. And that is the cause of air pollution today. So we have to understand that this problem comes back to us. And that we have to learn to walk the talk here. And we are not doing so. And government covers up by saying that it is somebody else's problem and that somebody else is going to clean up the streets. Unless we learn that we will have to pay the price for our garbage, we will have to pay the price for our pollution, our water, we will not be able to clean up India.
But I would say that there will be citizens who will turn around watching this program and say, look, it's not my problem, it's the civic agencies, it's the municipalities. That, Kiran Bedi, they are the bodies. Sunita, you don't agree with that, right? That the civic agencies have to take charge.
I just want because look, Rajdeep,
Yes.
let me just point out, please.
Yes.
The fact is, civic agencies have to take charge of your garbage, but you have to pay the taxes and you have to pay for it, and there is no part of the world that doesn't penalize citizens for either using too much garbage or for littering on the streets. We do not have any laws, we have no enforcement, and we want civic agencies
What kind of fine are we talking of here? What kind of fine are we talking of here, Sunita?
You know, in every part of the world, garbage, you actually, every part of the world, Rajdeep, you actually have systems by which you're allowed only certain amount of garbage, which the civic agencies will collect. For everything else, you have to pay much, much more.
Okay.
We don't even pay 25 rupees a month for removing our garbage, and we complain and we say it's the MCD's job or any other municipal commission's job, and we don't pay for it. And the richer we get, the more we consume, the more garbage we'll have.
I take your point. Yes, Mohandas Pai, you wanted to make a statement, then I'll go to Kiran Bedi to conclude.
Radhip, we don't have the right to litter the streets, then ask the civic agencies to clear that. What we can do is the garbage we generate in a house can be packed and given to the civic agencies to take away somewhere else. That is why we pay garbage charges. But we don't have a right to litter the streets. Littering the streets is illegal. The law is already there in the municipal acts of all cities, in all areas is illegal, and we are doing it openly, and there is no enforcement of law. Then we ask the civic agents to blame them, oh, you're not clear the streets. Now look, Radhip, in this country we have to enforce the law. The rule of law should prevail. The rule of law does not prevail in this country, and so everything is dirty. Chalta hai. The poor Prime Minister has now made an attempt. We should support him, and people have to come together. But there is no substitute for the rule of law, for the enforcement of law. There is no substitute, Radhip. It has to be done that way.
Let me ask the police officer then, is there no substitute for rule of law? Is it about law enforcement? Is fear going to actually get people to stop littering the streets, Kiran Bedi? Is it a fear factor? Or is it about changing mindsets, about people being conscious of the fact that when you litter the streets, you're doing something which really is not what you want to see in your neighborhood?
Rajiv, I would go for an all-directional plan, and that must start 3 months before Diwali, so that it doesn't get stale. And you have stakeholders. You have children stakeholders, you got resident welfare associations, you got enforcement agencies, you got the licensing systems, you got the administration, you got the civil defense, you got the wardens. You got to have a multi-dimensional and multi-directional Diwali plan.
But is it fear? Is it about fear?
Bring them earlier.
Do you need to spread fear among people?
Fear has to be one strong component,
education
and we must enhance fines and education and fear. I think it's got to have prevention and fear.
Okay.
Prevention and enforcement. And bring in all stakeholders. That's what I'm saying. All directional of all stakeholders to be brought in, and it's a run-up for 3 months before. What kind of Diwali do you want in 2015?
Well, the good thing is that the Prime Minister has forced us to debate this today. And I think it's good that he's tweeting about it, putting the pressure, because he needs to keep that sustained pressure over 12 months. This is not a one-day event. This is going to have to be something sustained over an extended period of time. Mohandas Pai, Kiran Bedi, Sunita Narayan, appreciate your joining me at the top of the news today at 9. My take, where do we stand? Swachh Bharat doesn't just require the cleaning of streets. it requires, I believe, an opening up of mindsets too. Mindsets as important as cleaning up of streets. The Prime Minister's laudable initiative will not succeed without active citizen partnership. To expect change overnight is difficult, as the cracker-strewn streets across India after Diwali only confirm. Please enjoy bursting crackers next time, but can we at least take responsibility the next morning to clean up our neighborhood? Okay, the Prime Minister, of course, on Diwali day was not bursting crackers. He instead went on a goodwill trip, remember, to Jammu and Kashmir. The opposition parties predictably have targeted the Prime Minister, their main contention being that the 750 crore rupee aid package announced by the Prime Minister for flood relief is only a fraction of what is demanded. But on the ground, people seem to be appreciating the fact that at least the Prime Minister spent Diwali in the valley.
He's the first Prime Minister to visit Siachen in 10 years, and certainly the first one to spend his Diwali on the icy heights of the world's highest battlefield and a flood-devastated Kashmir Valley. Narendra Modi spent more than 2 hours meeting various delegations at Srinagar's Raj Bhavan, from politicians to civil society to flood survivors, before announcing a financial package for the flood hit in the state.
पूरे मनोयोग से सरकार आपके पुनर्वसन के काम में कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर के काम करेगी.
It is this package of 745 crore rupees which is under fire from politicians in the valley. 570 crore rupees to rebuild flood-ravaged houses and 175 crore rupees for putting 6 major hospitals back on track. This against a whopping 44,000 crore rupees demanded by the state government.
People, particularly those who have lost their houses, are in dire need, and their rehabilitation should be the utmost priority. With cameraman Tariq Loon, Shujaul Haq in Srinagar for Headlines Today.
So is politics being played over flood relief after the Prime Minister's visit to the valley? That's the question, among others, that I posed to the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Omar Abdullah, when I spoke to him a short while ago. Listen in. Hello and welcome to this special here on Headlines Today, on a day after the Prime Minister has visited the valley on Diwali. We are joined by the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Omar Abdullah. Appreciate your joining us, Omar Abdullah, here on Headlines Today. One of the big questions, Omar Abdullah, is now over the relief package. The Prime Minister has announced a relief package of 745 crores. Your government has asked for 44,000 crores. Quite simply, these two numbers don't match. How do you ask for 44,000 crores when the Prime Minister and the centre is saying 745 crores for rehabilitation?
Well, I think that's because you're comparing apples and oranges. What the Prime Minister has announced is an interim measure out of the Prime Minister's Relief Fund. It is not a reflection on the 44,000 crore package that the State Cabinet has approved based on the loss assessment that we have done. That is still work in progress. And if I understand correctly, the Prime Minister has indicated that he has instructed the central government to arrive at a conclusion at the earliest with regard to this package and decide how much of it is admissible and how much of it is going to be released. So I don't think we should compare what the Prime Minister announced in Srinagar as an interim measure from his own Prime Ministerial Relief Fund and the 44,000 crore package that the State Cabinet has asked for.
Am I to then understand that you are positive and upbeat over what the Prime Minister did yesterday, came to Jammu and Kashmir, came to the valley on Diwali day, has announced a package? Do you see it therefore as a positive step forward and not about quibbling over numbers and figures?
There was no quibbling. So far there's been no quibbling. I mean, it's the easiest thing for me to criticize the central government. I'm not a part of the NDA. I'm going to be fighting elections against the BJP in a few months' time in the state, and therefore it's the easiest thing for me is to play politics with this relief package. But I'm not going to do that because that would be dishonest. At the end of the day, we've got no indication so far that the government of India is going to turn down the state's demands. and therefore if the Prime Minister comes on Diwali, which is the biggest festival in his calendar, and spends time with the troops in Siachen and then comes to Srinagar and spends a few hours there, announces an interim relief for two very crucial areas which are housing and hospitals, and goes back, I don't see how I can find fault with that.
Well, that's good to hear that there is a bipartisan approach. Interestingly, while announcing this relief of 745 crores, the Prime Minister also said that the announced amount will directly be credited into the bank account of those who suffered at the hands of the floods. Some will see that as an expression of no confidence in your government's ability to provide relief to the victims.
No, absolutely not. If I understand correctly, that is the way the Prime Minister's Relief Fund operates, as does any Chief Minister's Relief Fund. When I issue relief out of the Chief Minister's Relief Fund, it doesn't pass through multiple hands. It passes directly to the beneficiary, regardless of who has recommended that relief. A number of political colleagues of mine, opposition members, they often recommend relief to people, but I don't hand over the check to the person making the recommendation. I pass over the relief directly to the person who is the beneficiary of that relief, and that's exactly how the Prime Minister's Relief Fund operates as well. And therefore, I mean, it's again, I think it's convenient to try and draw meanings where none are necessary. If this 44,000 crore package of relief was to be distributed in a way in which the state government was entirely bypassed, that perhaps would be a different story altogether. But with the Prime Minister's Relief Fund, I have no complaint.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, my aim is not to become an administrator of relief packages. My aim is to ensure that the relief reaches the people in the quickest and shortest time possible.
But that's precisely the question.
Transferring from the
Omar, that's precisely the question, because over the last month or so, questions have been raised whether the relief is really reaching those who need it the most. You've heard voices, we've heard voices in the valley where people have said they haven't got the money. There have been questions over corruption in distributing of money. That's where people believe that there is a need for greater transparency and ensure that the state government also delivers.
Look, Rajdeep, I'll make the point that it is very easy to sit in Delhi and then decide that there is corruption and there is misgovernance and there is all sorts of other problems. We have so far distributed only 75,000 per fully damaged house, which has been done in an extremely transparent manner, where a team of no less than 6 or 7 officers together have had to certify whether the house is damaged or not.